Hey everybody, Meredith here. In this latest video update, I wanted to talk about something that I have been reading about amidst a lot of the coronavirus news and information out there, especially as it relates to working from home. This last week, I've seen some articles written about how there's all these employers that are panic buying software so that they can spy on their employees because they want to make sure they are actually working at home while they're doing this remote work during all the shelter in place and quarantining that's going on right now. So I want to talk about that from a conscious leadership perspective, especially providing conscious leadership to your team in a remote setting. A lot of managers were thrust into this remote work unexpectedly due to the coronavirus. And so it's perfectly understandable that a lot of them are kind of in panic mode about how to manage a team remotely. It can be like jumping out of an airplane with no parachute, or jumping out with a parachute, but not the proper training on how to actually land. So that's the analogy that I like to use. It really can be scary when you don't know and your job is on the line and your employees' jobs are on the line. So it's understandable that people are looking for types of solutions to really get them through this current situation. But there are some ways as conscious leaders that you can provide really great leadership to your team without having to resort to spying or intimidation or fear or command and control type tactics. The number one thing that I recommend, and there are 3 tips I'm going to provide today. The first one is, first of all, hire trustworthy employees. And I know that sounds kind of like a no-brainer for any good manager. You want to hire trustworthy employees. But if you go through that process of really vetting someone and find the right talent, they're going to work for you and do a great job no matter what the setting. So that's always an important one, is hiring really great talent. But there's another part to that. Not everyone is cut out to do remote work. And so even if you have a really trustworthy, talented employee, they may not be ready to work from home. And that is just a matter of providing them the right skills and tools and training and coaching they need to set themselves up for success in a remote setting. And that's something that certainly I, as a coach for remote teams, can help with. But it's something you can definitely do when you have the right employees in place, just getting them the assets and the training they need to be successful working from home. Another thing that I like to remind conscious leaders who are managers is to inspire and encourage employees. Sometimes we see lack of engagement or people really not wanting to work because they're confused about the kind of work that they're doing and they're just not really inspired. Whereas if you are a coach-centric leader for your team, you know what motivates them, you're checking in with them, you're finding out the things that really get them going and make them excited, and engaging them in those, you're not going to have to worry about whether they're getting their work done at home. And that may mean that you need to have conversations with them on a regular basis about, are the projects you're working on engaging you? Is this something you're really excited about? And is this going to help you get to where you want to go in your career? And a good conscious leader really is going to focus on those things with their teammates and their team members, is finding those ways they can support their team, be a coach for them, and get them really engaged. And that means really having almost like a coaching relationship where you're checking in regularly and having those types of conversations with them. So that's another concept that I like to share. A third one is that don't count the hours they're working. And I know that sounds kind of weird. A lot of employers say, well, I'm paying these people for a certain amount of hours every week. I want to know they're working those set number of hours. My response to that is, well, what if you had an employee who was only working maybe 30 hours a week, or even 4 hours a week, whatever the number is, but they were producing way beyond anything you could have expected. They're just rock star employees. Conscious leaders really don't need to count the hours their employees are working. They set out very clear commander's intent. They set out expectations for that employee. They check in with them, make sure they have everything they need to accomplish those goals. And then they really don't need to count those hours anymore. So it's one of those things where it's kind of, it doesn't quite make sense, but if you hire the right people, put them in the right place, give them the tools they need, they're going to produce way beyond anything you could have imagined. So now granted, there are some employees that do some work like customer service, things like that, where they do need to be on the clock for a certain number of hours. But as a conscious leader, if you are coaching them, engaging them, really inspiring them to move forward in their career and accomplish the things they want to accomplish, they're going to show up at work so much happier. The customers are going to get a better experience in that customer service setting, which is going to help the overall brand and mission of your organization or your company. So again, even if you do have set numbers of hours that employees are working, really finding ways for it to be a win-win for both the employer and the employee beyond just a paycheck but really investing in them. That's another really key concept for conscious leaders. So those are the three things that I really like to cover with clients is hire trustworthy employees and equip them, especially in a remote setting. Inspire and encourage your team, like in a coaching relationship. And then you don't really need to count the hours worked if you're motivating and really giving them everything they need to be successful. And you'll be pleasantly surprised by the conscious leadership, what it can produce within your organization. So those are some of my tips for being a conscious leader for your remote team that doesn't resort to spying or controlling or fear and intimidation. I hope these tips help you, and really wishing that you will work happy, live happy, be happy. Bye.